Alice's voice trembled as tears streamed down her cheeks. I am carrying his child, Chloe. What can I do? Chloe sat on her bed, momentarily speechless. Her thoughts swirled in confusion and worry. Did this happen because we placed too great a burden on her? If this is the price we must pay for our selfishness, then I must stop this marriage at all costs. Her resolve hardened. First, I will need to persuade father. The next morning, Chloe rose early and went straight to her father's study. The sun had barely risen, yet the Viscount was already at his desk, reviewing documents. He looked up in mild surprise when she entered. Awake already, Chloe? What brings you here so early in the morning? He asked. I wish to speak to you about Alice's marriage, she replied, her tone calm but deliberate. I gave it some thought, and... she began, but her father cut her off. I mulled it over all night as well, he said, leaning back in his chair. His interruption startled her, and she flinched slightly, her teacup trembling in her hand. The possibility of Alice marrying into House This is both a source of concern and relief, he continued, letting out a slow breath. Whatever do you mean? Chloe asked, puzzled by his choice of words. House Thissy is a family that values honor, the Viscount explained. They would never abandon Alice, even if they found fault with her character or conduct. Duke Thiss knows well what a cruel fate it is to be a divorcee in this kingdom. Chloe set her teacup down, her expression tense. Father, there is something I must tell you. Before she could finish, the door burst open. Giles rushed in, his face pale and his voice urgent. Lord Verdier! Lady Chloe! Lady Alice! She has disappeared! What do you mean by that? The Viscount demanded, rising to his feet in shock. I found this in her room, Giles said, handing over several folded letters. Let me see that! The Viscount snatched the letters from Giles's hands and began to read. To my beloved father and dear sister, I grew up witnessing the boundless love father had for mother. From you, I learned that true love transcends both illness and death, for you are living proof of its power. I can no longer ignore what my heart desires. I also wish to keep my head high for the sake of the child I carry, and to prove to myself that no love should be forbidden. I now relinquish the name Verdier and will simply live as Alice. I apologize, father. Do not forgive me for this selfish deed. Chloe, I am sorry. I hope I can make amends one day. As the Viscount reached the end of the letter, his face drained of color. His body gave way, and he collapsed to the floor. Father! Chloe cried, rushing to his side as Giles knelt beside them. The letter slipped from the Viscount's hand, but its final lines were still visible. Though I am a thankless daughter, please know that I am sincere when I say that I love you. With a heavy heart and 1,000 apologies, Alice. Later that evening, after the household had settled from the commotion, the Viscount lay in bed, still weak from the shock. Chloe sat quietly beside him, holding his hand. Chloe, my dear, did you know? He asked faintly. I was dimly aware that there was a man Alice cared for, she admitted. He sighed heavily. The fact that you did not tell me means you must have disapproved, and if even you found him objectionable, he must be a good-for-nothing scoundrel. Chloe's gaze softened. If Alice ran off despite my objections, then I believe he must be someone worthy of her. I trust her, father. Please, focus on getting better. As for Duke Thissy, leave it to me. I will speak with him. She gave him a faint, reassuring smile before standing and stepping quietly out of the room. Outside, she found Giles waiting. You looked the other way when she left, didn't you? Chloe asked calmly. I knew the moment you walked in with her letter. You would never have entered her room without her permission. I suppose there's no use hiding it from you, Giles replied quietly. Thank you for being there for her, Chloe said, her voice low. I wasn't sure of the right thing to do myself, which is why I'm grateful you helped her leave. What's done is done. Now, we must make the best of it. Giles hesitated, his hand twitching slightly as though he wanted to reach for her. I hope you're not blaming yourself, my lady. Please don't think you must take responsibility for this, because if you do, I don't know how I could live with myself. Chloe turned her eyes toward the window, her voice steady. Giles, I am the only one who can look after House Verdier now. I will find a way for all of us to survive, even if it means making a very dangerous choice. Her tone carried no uncertainty, only the quiet weight of a decision already made. 3 days later, Chloe traveled to the neighboring village to visit Duke Damien at his estate. When he spotted her from his balcony, a faint, amused smile crossed his face. "How unexpected," he remarked, leaning slightly against the railing. "Did you find my offer of marriage so pleasing that you decided to deliver your acceptance in person?" "This isn't something I could discuss in a letter," Chloe replied, standing firmly before him. He studied her for a moment before asking, "Are you afflicted with an infectious disease?" "I'm not sure what you mean," she said, her brows knitting in confusion. "If that isn't the case, why don't you step closer? Come, take a seat next to me." He gestured toward a cushioned chair beside him. Chloe hesitated briefly, then walked forward and sat beside him. "My wound isn't improving," he told her casually. "Have you seen a physician?" she asked, turning to him with concern. "No," he answered plainly. Then, picking up a small crate filled with bottles, he added, "Would you apply some of this solution for me?" She glanced at the bottles, a skeptical look crossing her face. "I can tell exactly what you're thinking from that expression," he said awkwardly. "Do you not have hands, Your Grace?" she asked dryly, taking the bottle from him nonetheless. "The days are too hot for proper healing," she continued as she prepared the lotion. "You should remain indoors as much as possible. Being outside will only slow the process." "I wouldn't know," he replied. "We don't have such summers on the Thys estate. I rather enjoy the sensation of the sun scorching me from head to toe." She applied the lotion carefully over his bare chest, her hands steady. Once finished, she said, "You may lower your arm now." "So," he began, shifting slightly toward her, "tell me, why was my proposal rejected?" Chloe kept her gaze lowered. "Marriage is no longer physically possible for my sister." "And the reason?" His voice sharpened. "Did she pass away?" "No," Chloe answered quietly. "But before I explain, may I ask you a question?" He leaned back slightly. "Go ahead." "The reason you wish to marry my sister, is it because of me?" The rhythmic sound of waves against the shore filled the pause before he answered. "And why would you think that?" Damien asked, his tone unreadable. "I'm asking if your intention in involving yourself with my family is to bring about my complete and utter ruin," Chloe said steadily. A small chuckle escaped him. "Do you remember what you told me the other day? That believing every woman in the kingdom is desperate to marry me is egotistical delusion?" She stiffened slightly, recalling her words. "I'd say it is you, Lady Chloe, who is self-absorbed to the point of delusion," he added with a faint smirk. Her cheeks warmed, and she turned her head away. "You're right. I thought it unlikely." "You can be surprisingly amusing sometimes," he said. "Did you know that?" "No, I didn't. Does that mean you love Alice, then?" she asked, her eyes avoiding his. "Do I seem like a romantic who believes marriage should be based on love?" he replied, exhaling softly. "Then there's only one explanation," Chloe said firmly. "There must be some pressing reason you need to marry a daughter of House Verdier, one you cannot share with others." "Go on," he encouraged, his interest now piqued. "If there is a reason you would turn down the most eligible brides in the kingdom for the daughter of a low-ranking family, then perhaps it doesn't matter to you who she is. In fact, you might even prefer to wed someone with a flaw so visible that no one would give her a second glance." "You mean," he said, leaning in slightly, "a woman who has lost the use of one leg?" "If I had lost the use of both, perhaps I would have made the perfect bride for you," she replied evenly. Damien's eyes held hers as he reached forward, cupping her jaw. "Would I not?" he murmured before leaning closer. Their lips met, her stillness contrasting with his steady insistence. The kiss lingered, and though it began softly, it deepened briefly before they parted. Chloe's breathing was uneven, her face faintly flushed. Damien held her close, their foreheads nearly touching, both quietly catching their breath. Chloe's hand tightened around his wrist, halting his advance. "What do you think you are doing?" she asked, turning her face away, her cheeks still flushed. She pulled herself free from his grip, breathing unevenly. "You always make such cutting remarks," Duke, Damien said, his tone calm but deliberate. "I was curious to see just how sharp your tongue truly is. This seemed like the perfect moment to find out." His gaze lingered on her as he added, "To ask whether you can bear me an heir." He stepped closer, leaning in to brush his lips against her neck. Chloe, facing away from him, felt her face grow even warmer, but she said nothing. Without warning, she turned sharply and slapped him. "To act in this manner before giving me a proper answer to my proposal is shockingly disrespectful, Your Grace," she said firmly. Damien's head turned slightly from the force, but he only chuckled under his breath. Indeed, a fitting response, he replied, sticking out his tongue in an almost playful but taunting gesture. Rising from his chair, he buttoned his shirt with unhurried precision. However, I suggest you revisit the principles of negotiation, he said coldly. Now, go. His final word carried a commanding edge, and Chloe could only watch him with conflicted, tense emotions. A few days later, at the Verdier estate, Chloe sat alone in her study. She rested her fingertips against her lips, a faint trace of daze in her expression. She could still remember the Duke's kiss, the heat of the moment, the sharpness in his eyes. Chloe, her thoughts scattered when a louder voice followed. Lady Chloe, Jill's called, startling her. She blinked, focusing on him as he stepped forward, papers in hand. Are you all right? You're looking pale, he said with concern. Yes, I'm fine, Chloe answered quickly, exhaling as she straightened her posture. Now, where were we? Jill's resumed reading from the document. Following the congratulatory message regarding Lady Alice's engagement, the royal family continues to send gifts. The garden is still filled with wagons stacked with presents. He hesitated before adding, If I may ask, my lady, did your conversation with the Duke not go well? Chloe lowered her gaze to the floor, her mind heavy. Was my intuition correct? She knew that Prince Johannes was the official heir to the royal throne. Yet, there was one man whose influence rivaled that of the royal family and who enjoyed the people's deep respect. Duke Thissy. The royal family must be thrilled at the news that such a powerful figure was marrying the daughter of a humble viscount, rather than a noblewoman from an established lineage. And Duke Thissy himself, he surely understood the political advantage of this union. Her thoughts drifted to Alice. A sudden knock broke her focus as the butler entered. He leaned in slightly and spoke quietly. My lady, a guest has arrived. A guest? Who is it? It is Duke Thiss. Shall I inform the master? Chloe's expression tensed. No, father is unwell. We should not disturb him. I will meet the Duke on his behalf. Please ask him to wait in the drawing room. I'll be there shortly. When she entered the room, Damien was already standing. There you are. I've been waiting, he said with a faint smile. You look surprised to see me. It is highly improper for your grace to enter a lady's private quarters uninvited, Chloe said with polite firmness. I couldn't help myself. I missed you, he replied easily. This space is private. I'll have you shown to the drawing room. She moved to gesture toward the door, but he stepped closer, tilting her chin upward. Will that really be necessary? He asked. Gilles, standing nearby, looked on in disbelief. Our relationship will soon be such that we will have no need for privacy from one another, Damien remarked, idly running his fingers through her hair. With a sudden glance toward Jill, Damien's voice sharpened. Shut the door. Jill's hesitated, then obeyed, his hand trembling slightly as he closed it behind him. Back inside, Damien took a seat and produced a small case. Opening it, he revealed a necklace set with ornate jewels. These have been passed down through generations of House Thiss, he explained. Tradition dictates that my mother should present them to you herself, but she does not approve of this match. That is to be expected, Chloe murmured, her eyes falling to the floor. He studied her face carefully. Are you only pretending to remain calm, or do you truly feel indifferent? I am afraid to react too quickly, she replied, for I do not know what your next words will be. A smirk curved his lips. Does that mean you accept my offer? Yes, she answered softly. Damien leaned forward, taking the necklace from its case. Then consider this my proposal. Chloe Verdier, will you be my wife? Will you be my wife? Duke Damien asked, his tone steady. Chloe sat down calmly, her hands resting neatly on her lap. I am truly grateful that you have decided to accept my offer, she replied, bowing slightly. Grateful? He repeated, puzzled by her choice of words. Yes, your grace, she answered with composure. And how will you prove that? He questioned, his eyes fixed on her. I will do my utmost to be of assistance in every endeavor you undertake, regardless of what it may be, she said, meeting his gaze briefly before lowering it again. What is it that you think I want? He asked, his tone shifting slightly. Chloe hesitated for a moment, tense under his watchful eyes. Chloe, Duke Damien's voice grew lower, must I run my tongue across your parched lips again to make you speak? Her face flushed at his words. I believe it is power that you want. though I am much too short-sighted to know exactly what you are thinking," she said, her eyes drifting to the floor as she clutched the edge of her skirt. "From this moment on, you are forbidden from saying such things in my presence," he said, wiping his mouth. "I know you are not short-sighted." "I shall do everything in my capacity to assist you," Chloe continued. "And," he prompted, "if you should wish to divorce in the future, I shall gladly accede to your request," she replied. "You would grant me a divorce? How insolent, Chloe," he said with a smirk. "Your arrogance infuriates me." "I apologize if that is how it sounded. I hope you will not misunderstand my intentions," she said quietly. "And what exactly are your intentions? What is it you hope to gain from me?" He pressed. She began, clenching her fists. "I want to be a duchess," Chloe said firmly, lifting her gaze to meet his. Duke Damien stood and walked toward her. Gently, he placed a necklace around her neck. "How does it feel to wear the jewels of House This?" he whispered near her ear, his breath brushing against her skin. "They feel heavy, Your Grace," she answered softly. "This is nothing compared to the weight of responsibility you will bear as the wife of a duke." "Do you still wish to be my wife?" he asked in a quieter tone. Chloe paused briefly. "Yes, I wish for nothing more in the world," she said, turning her head toward him. "I see," he murmured, his thumb brushing against her lips as he held her face from behind. "And have you thought more about the principles of negotiation? What do you think I want in this very moment?" Chloe grasped his tie, drawing him closer, and kissed him. Their lips met in a deep, passionate exchange. Her fingers tightened on her skirt as the moment pulled her in. When she finally released him, he was breathing softly, caught off guard. "Is this too much for you?" she asked, leaving him momentarily speechless. "I will not lie to you. You will have to get used to it. Things will only grow more intense," she said, her cheeks warm. "Oh, my dear Chloe, I had absolutely no idea," Viscount Verdier exclaimed when he learned of the marriage proposal. "I expect she will make a fine duchess," Duke Damien said with a faint smile. Chloe remained silent, her expression reserved. "Of course she will," the Viscount declared. "I guarantee it. My daughter is a wise young lady. I am certain she will earn everyone's respect. If you can make her happy, I shall willingly offer you everything I have, including my own life." Duke Damien placed his hand over Chloe's. She glanced at his gloved fingers, startled. How did he get those gloves? She wondered, remembering she had never given them to him as a gift. "If that is the case, will you grant me the forest on the Verdier estate and the mountain that leads to it?" the Duke asked. "The forest and the mountain?" the Viscount repeated in surprise. "But the soil is barren, and the trees are of no use." "They are lands cherished by Lady Chloe," Duke Damien said calmly. "They also happen to be the place where everything began between the two of us." The long-awaited wedding day finally arrived. Standing before the couple, the priest began the vows. "Do you swear to remain by your spouse's side and fulfill your duties through all the trials and tribulations you may face?" he asked solemnly. "I do," Duke Damien replied without hesitation, his gaze fixed intently on Chloe's eyes. "The bride and groom may now seal their vows with a kiss as a sign of commitment before God," the priest declared. Chloe closed her eyes, bracing herself for the kiss. But instead of her lips, Duke Damien's kiss landed lightly on her cheek, catching her off guard. "Were you expecting something else?" he asked with a faint, almost mocking smile. Chloe avoided his eyes, her expression betraying a slight disappointment. "You look absolutely radiant, my dear Chloe." Her father called out joyfully, clapping alongside Jill. Jill's, however, clapped slowly, his mood clearly subdued. "By the grace of God, I now pronounce you man and wife," the priest announced. The couple stood side by side, silent. "Chloe," Duke Damien called softly. She turned toward him, unsure of his intention, only for him to suddenly sweep her into his arms. Chloe's cheeks flushed red as the crowd erupted in cheers. "Our sincerest congratulations, Your Grace!" Voices called from all around. "Please, put me down," Chloe whispered, embarrassed. "Do you intend to rush through this moment?" he teased, kissing her cheek again. She winced at the unexpected closeness, her blush deepening. Slowly, she reached up and steadied herself by holding onto his neck. "Well done, Chloe von This," he murmured. Later, gossip began to spread. "I heard the Duke left the Verdier estate immediately after the ceremony," one person said. "He didn't even spend the night with his bride," another added. "Does that mean the Duchess will be alone for 3 months?" someone else asked. Some days later, Chloe visited a tailoring shop. As the seamstress took her measurements, Chloe's eyes fell upon a red-inked gossip column in the newspaper. Apparently, Duke Thysse has been seen rallying with Marchioness Isabella. The newly wedded Duchess was unable to capture the Duke's fiery passion. The seamstress noticed her reading. "Shall I burn it, my lady?" "That won't be necessary," Chloe replied calmly, placing her hand over the paper. "Burning it won't turn rumors into ash." "If you've finished taking my measurements, I'll take my leave," Chloe added. "But we've yet to discuss the fabric and design," the seamstress protested. "I'll leave that to your discretion. You're more knowledgeable in these matters than I am," Chloe said before stepping outside. Jill's was waiting for her. Chloe sighed as she passed him, the words from the newspaper still fresh in her mind. "Men and their inability to control themselves will be the ruin of this country," she muttered. Once seated in the carriage, Jill spoke. "Why not leave the management of the estate to others for a while? I can take care of business on your behalf." "No?" Chloe replied. "You might attract unwanted attention because of that piece in the red veil," he cautioned. "Jill's, if the Duchess appears to be swayed by baseless rumors, the people will only grow more uneasy," she explained. The carriage rattled along, and Chloe's mind drifted back to the end of her wedding day. "I shall return to the capital now that the ceremony is over," Duke Damien had said from atop his horse. "As for you, you may perform your ducal duties from here." Not once in the past 3 months had he replied to her letters. Was this why? Chloe glanced again at the gossip piece about him and Marchioness Isabella. "I didn't expect anything from this marriage to begin with. There's no reason to let this affect me," she thought, gripping her skirt. "Lady Chloe, there's good news awaiting you at the manor," Jill suddenly said. "Good news?" Chloe asked, surprised. "A letter arrived from Lady Alice. It's short, but she seems well." "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Chloe asked, her voice brightening. "A letter from Alice? How wonderful. Are you that happy?" Jill asked with a small smile. "Of course. I now know Alice is safe, and Father's health has improved. The people of our estate are in good spirits because of the marriage," she thought inwardly. "What's more, I would much rather live apart from him, if only life could remain peaceful like this forever." The carriage rolled on, leaving the bustle of the streets behind. Thank you for watching this episode of our Manhwa recap. We hope you enjoyed diving into the world of this story with us. If you loved the content, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you even more amazing Manhwa recaps. See you in the next episode.